Thank you so much, Layla, for joining me. You're a USSR-born, Israeli-raised South African entrepreneur and brand builder, founder and managing director of Wildcat. And, you're always such a big advocate for empowering future female creatives. So, quick question off the bat. You were born Israeli-raised. What brought you to South Africa?
So that was just part of the beginning of like my modeling career. So I started when I was 15, and then as I turned about 17, started traveling. So eventually ended up in Cape Town because there was obviously a good international market here at the time, and there was a lot of international clients. So you had the opportunity to be in one place and basically work with clients from all over the world. So yeah, and it was obviously a nice place to be at. So.
Yeah, Cape Town's not the worst.
No, it's not. It was probably it was the first place I went to that for some reason when I got here, it just felt like home. So yeah.
It does have a very special energy with it. But what were you doing before you started Wildcat? And then why and when did you start Wildcat exactly?
So I started modeling when I was still in school, so 15. I didn't finish school, so my last year I just did some of the exams. I didn't officially actually finish school. I started traveling. Obviously, in Israel, you are required to go to the army, but I got out of it because I was already traveling for about a year before that came about. So for me to stop what I was doing and going to another structure similar to school, which didn't really work for me anyways, was just not who I was. Not that I even, well, I mean, it's got its role, but I'm not going to get into that. But it's just not something I saw myself doing. So yeah, I started traveling and ended up in Cape Town, and I was modeling for quite a while. Yeah, and just through different jobs. And obviously modeling was great during summer, but then obviously you had winter periods which were very quiet. There wasn't any international clients around because obviously the weather isn't fantastic to do that. So you were down to basically local clients, which wasn't a lot. And then I ended up basically working quite a bit with JBS and Speedo at the time, and just being more like in-house model. And I spent just a lot of time in the factory seeing how things were being put together and just getting a little bit more involved with things and understanding that I actually really enjoy that and enjoy seeing things come together and the construction of items. And I really had an understanding for it. And then, yeah, I think that just sparked something inside of me to say, well, I'm a little bit tired of waiting for the next casting and just sitting around and going to the gym and taking care of my physical appearance. And I just need something more because I think I was just bored at that point. I mean, I did modeling for quite a few years until then. So, yeah, I think I was just ready for something else. And then I ended up having a bit of an accident, not with a car, with a glass door, but I basically sliced both of my arms pretty badly. That's also, I've got a scar here. It was just quite a long recovery. And one of the things that I did beforehand, part of my search for a solution for my boredom, was actually a beading kit, which was just there when I came back from the hospital. And as part of the recovery, I mean, my hand was in like a sling, just basically like holding it in for about like 2 months. So just recovery and like just some sort of rehab with my hands was just me doing beading. And then I started really enjoying it, really got into it. And then basically through that, I got into YDE. So I started, that was like my first like business. And I got into YDE. This was back just before Truers bought the whole thing. And yeah, I just had a accessories and jewelry range in there for about 10 months. It was just school fees because even though I didn't finish school, I think I just did it in my own way. And just through that experience, just understanding from practical experience what it means to run a business, I guess on the most basic level, and understanding just the basics of, making sales versus actual profits and managing stock and managing issues. And yeah, it was a nice first experience, and I guess my way of doing school.
Oh, nice. All started with beading. So how did you come up with the name Wildcat?
So I did that for about 10 months. And on the side, I think because I still wasn't 100% sure as to what it is that I want to do, I was just moving with the flow. And I was doing the beading, and then through the beading came crystals. So I was doing, most of the stuff I was doing was more like precious stones. So like gemstones, crystals, and then Swarovski crystals. And then this was pretty much the period where Ed Hardy was quite big, Affliction,
I
these types
remember
of
Ed
brands. Very
Hardy,
like
yes.
rock. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, if that's really a thing, like, why don't I combine what I do with the jewelry and start embellishing things? So as part of like the accessories was more like, let me try the crystals onto other things. So started just like a bunch of shirts and things, like there would be a print and like little crystals in different areas. It was like quite hard, like skulls, and it was intense. And then yeah, I saw obviously some form of response to it, and it was basically men's clothing. It was in a period where it wasn't readily available in terms of just the fits that I was going for. So it was very fitted shirts, V-necks, and it was just sort of coming in. It was just at the beginning of like the sort of fitness boom. And I think there was such a demand for these types of items for especially people that worked out and wanted to, I guess, look a bit more fitted, show off what they've worked hard for. And yeah, I started getting it into boutique stores. And back then, this was still the experiment portion, which was called Firefly. And when the whole thing with YD finished, I said to myself, okay, well, I have to do something. And I felt like there was something about the V-necks and the fitted tops that seemed to have taken off more than other things that I was looking at. And I went to a guy friend of mine at the time and said, do you want to do this with me? Because I think also through that experience, I didn't necessarily want to do another thing fully by myself. And I guess just someone to share it with, because I think I am very much a team player. So yeah, that formed what became Deranged. And we did that pretty much from about 2010. And then in 2015, basically came Wildcat. And that was basically doing menswear and seeing a demand for styles that were similar, but more with a female appeal. And then trying to do it under Deranged, which didn't really work, because I think women are different than men. And I think we just look for something different to identify with. And yeah, I just didn't think that where that was going was something that would long-term appeal to a woman.
Yeah.
And there was quite a lot of designs that we played around with. It was mostly like lettering and numbers, because it was very much like the whole college vibe at the time.
Yes, I remember Deranged. It's very much, it's heavy gymming, like sweat beaters, and like you're saying, the lettering, like those college vests.
Now it is. Yeah.
Like the gold gym type style, I think, of Deranged, you know, like those gold gym vests.
So when it started, it wasn't. So yeah, it had its own transition. So it sort of started with skulls and like, you know, very heavy stuff. And that was the influence of my partner at the time. And then I was like, but look at the college stuff. It really looks great. And we had the one design that had like DRNG 69. And it was just sort of cut out of the V part. And it was a very popular design. I was like, there's something here. Let's do this. So it was very much like college, sporty, track and field, very, I would say more, yeah, more college type brand. And then Wildcat came about, and we were playing with similar things like minks and like fox, or then came Wildcat. So that was actually one of the designs. And it was just at the beginning. And then when I saw that design, and it was a fitted V-neck dress. So it was like a fitted bodycon type dress. And those actually became quite popular and just said Wildcat with like a cursive sort of swoosh on it. And when I saw the design and how it came out when we were shooting it, I don't know, it was just one of those moments that you're just like, this makes sense, you know? And I was like, let's do it as Wildcat. And I think since that point, it's sort of taken itself on its own journey of discovering what Wildcat is. And I think still busy discovering. So.
And I know that every year you do the ultimate Wildcat search. When did you start it, and why did you guys decide to start it and continue it?
So it started around 2015.
Can you tell us what exactly, the Wildcat search is? Because I know you and I will know what it is, but some people listening might not.
So it also changes. So it's got its own evolution, I feel. But with the times, I think it's more, maybe the details change of what we're looking for, how we present it or how we go about it. But the main idea was just to give a platform for girls that want a different type of career. And I think for me, I was blessed enough to have a mother that, although she didn't understand it at first, she ended up becoming my biggest supporter when it came to obviously me choosing the career I chose. But it's not common and it's not usual. And I think a lot of parents still, I think it's just in the search for wanting the best for your kid. But at the same time, I think a lot of parents still struggle coming to terms with that being the best option. But I think a lot of, and this is something that I hear from a lot of the girls that I do speak to throughout the competition, they want to be able to reach a point where they can make a living doing what they truly love. And it would be actually a pity for someone not to be able to, because I've met so many girls that are so extremely talented, and for someone like that to go and sit behind a desk doing something that they absolutely have no passion for. I mean, sure, there's certain moments where you have to do what you have to do. I mean, we all had to, but as like a long-term, like lifelong thing, I don't know. I just always felt it would be a waste. And throughout this whole period, I think for me, it was just a way to provide this platform for someone to be able to pursue that side of themselves, and maybe even going through the process, understanding that they can, and having more self-belief in being able to. With that being said, I think also coming into this type of platform, I think one has to have the right mindset as well, because you have to be willing to take the necessary steps to move forward, and wanting to reach for more. And I think that's something that I've definitely seen, where I can see a lot of potential in someone, but until they see that potential in themselves, they're not going to be able to reach that. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you can literally serve it to someone on a silver platter. It's still not going to work. So I think providing the platform for girls that truly have a natural talent for it to get more confident and be able to do something more, and maybe be able to say to their parent, like, look, I've won this. There's something here. Like, please give me the time to explore that, you know?
Yeah. So in the Ultimate Wildcat, I saw that you were getting them to get creative with clothing and to come up with creative posts. You even got Chris Rogers to come in and give some tips on how to do video content. So it's, you really help. It seems like it's really helping girls to build their presence as well and their creativity and get those juices flowing when joining.
Yes. So the main goal, obviously, as we progress, is to also give them the tools. So it's one thing to say, okay, we have a platform where you win and you get to work with us, but it's also about what you learn along the way. So coming together with like aces for the past two competitions and taking it more into a creative space, as opposed to maybe other competitions that look for just like models. This was more about finding creators and finding girls that have the potential to be sort of all encompassing, someone that can represent the brand on a social platform, someone that can represent the brand from like a, on a day-to-day appearance type in person, and providing them the tools to really learn what else is out there. So with Chris, it was about showing them that although we all used to editing on our phones, taking everything on our phones, there's a whole world out there of professional, videography or filmmaking or editing. There's a lot more possibilities. And again, it's not necessarily down to how you look. It's also about what you're able to create, which is, I think, where it goes deeper than that. It's beyond just, I'm an influencer, I can post something on my profile, I can put things together and it looks cool. It's also about, for some of these girls, taking other creative paths like photography, like videography, and other things, and just showing them the possibilities that are out there. Because I honestly do feel there's so many people out there that just don't necessarily need to end up in a desk job doing a 9 to 5 as everybody else. Like there's other ways to get what you want out of life. So yeah, I think it's just opening people up to the possibilities and opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've loved watching the competition as it's gone on and meeting some of the girls this year as well. But owning your own business, such as Wildcat, and you've also founded Body by Wild. So it seems that you have quite a keen interest, obviously, in the health industry. So I wanted to ask you something, is that, what is something that you believe to be true about the health industry, but other people might not agree, that you've picked up on?
Pretty sure most people will not maybe take on well with that, but I think most doctors are not there to heal you. And I think that's something that people really, really need to understand. And, there's a whole industry out there that is about maximizing profitability. I mean, it's just what it is. And I think even in the greater scheme of things, I don't think we as humans need anything. I mean, not even supplements. Of course, sure, I sell supplements, but I mean, I don't use any myself because that's not where I'm at in my space right now in my wellness journey. But I think there's different phases for each person to go through where certain things make sense for certain points in time, and everything has a space. But I honestly feel if people looked more inwards than outwards for solutions, I think a lot more will come of that. And I think looking at things more comprehensively rather than in isolation, I think that's been one of the biggest realizations I've had, because I honestly feel that people fail to, I mean, I'm at fault of that also at certain points, but I think looking for answers with anything else that's external, whether it's people, whether it's doctors, whether it's, medication or whatever it is. But I think it's hard to look inwards. But once you are, and once you can become more self-aware of yourself, I think the real answers come. And everything else outside of that is just putting plasters on it.
Yeah.
So, and again, every person has their journey. And I think we're ready to see certain things at certain points. And I mean, if we had to see everything at a point where we're just not ready for it, it's just too overwhelming,
Yeah.
It's like even a child, if you think about the evolution of a child, they don't immediately come to this world being able to see and feel. And I mean, it's such an overwhelming sensory experience that even a child by nature is not designed to see everything all at once. So I think as humans, we are pretty much the same. Like we go through different periods where certain things apply, and we go through a journey, and then once we're done with this one journey, we go to the next one and to the next one.
I have to agree as well. I think nowadays with doctors, I mean, I've spoken with you about this as well. So I have rheumatoid arthritis, but to find out kind of what it was, I saw 3 different doctors. I went to a GP, then I went to orthopedic surgeon, and then finally a rheumatologist after the results, and no one knew what was wrong. We were running around, and I've been reading quite a few books and hearing podcasts. Like, Western medicine is not the same as what it used to be. It used to be about healing people, I think, but now we've separated mind and body when they are one thing when it comes to healing. And essentially, the medical industry has become a business. They want repeat business. So, like you're saying, they're putting plasters on wounds, but it's because it's going to be repeat customers. Like, you see all those big things come out about big pharma, and we touched on this, and I'm sure it's a highly contentious topic, but doing the vaccinations, I did it, but then now I'm thinking, what was the point? I know that I don't think that you did, and lots of people had differing of opinions, and now they're coming out with all these studies about it after forcing the whole world to try and take it. It's now, well, what was the point?
Yeah, look, I mean, I personally didn't, but again, I had a baby during lockdown. So, I mean, my perception of things, and I think I was just on a different journey by that point, that I was just doubting everything so badly. And again, like someone might look at me from the outside and think, oh, this chick constantly talking about all these things, and people say, oh, conspiracy theories. Yeah.
I'm sure there's tons, but while we're on the topic about also, the health issues, you've encountered some of your own health issues as well. You've shared about it on your personal Instagram, but you spoke about your breast implants. What has been your experience with having that? Because I know you said it triggered some anxiety. There were health concerns. What was your experience?
Yeah, so that was part of my journey. It was just something that was sold to me by my agent at the time as the right thing to do for my career. So for me, I was always a very ambitious person. So if someone said to me, okay, well, you can get this done and this will be a great option for you because you're going to work better and things are going to work. It's like, I know it's not the best example, but it's like going and learning a new skill or getting in a certain, let's call it advantage.
It's like getting a notch in the belt, an extra notch in the belt kind of thing.
Yeah, so it was one of those things, and at the time it was just very fashionable, because I mean, when I started modeling, this was like early 2000s, so the whole look of, like, Pamela Anderson and like the whole Baywatch and everything was very like curvy, sensual, very sexy, commercial. So yeah, I was more on the commercial side of modeling, so that was sort of the selling point, and it was just very much in at the time. And it's not so much in now, and that's why I mean, now there's other things that are trending, but yeah, I think that for me at that point, that was what I had to do for that part of my life. And I didn't think anything of it, because again, I was told that it's for life. This is, I think, why also, when it came down to vaccines, I was like, yeah, I don't know, because I was sold things before, So, like, until you're sure and you've got your stuff sorted and you can, without, a shadow of a doubt, tell me, like, this is for life. Yeah, it's for life. You live with the consequences.
What were some of the consequences that happened after the implants? Do you still have them in?
No. So I went for an excruciating surgery to remove them. It's not something I wish on anyone. You basically have your breasts cut open from side to side. So yeah, it's a lot worse than putting them in. I mean, this was like a 4.5-hour surgery, because they have to literally peel it off. So
oh wow.
With the risks of basically having let's say leakage or something else that might be wrong inside. So basically, once you get the implants in, your body starts creating a capsule around them, which is basically scar tissue that it creates in order to shield your body from the implants. So, because in a way, it's basically like a foreign invader. So it starts creating this capsule, so it basically shields it in some form of, like, literally a capsule. So the implants are sitting in the scar tissue. So in order to not take risks, especially for people that do have more symptoms, they have to literally cut around it. So they have to cut open the breast from the bottom, lift, and start cutting. So your scar tissue essentially attaches to in some cases for me, it was on top of the muscle, but for some people that had it under the muscle, I mean, they have to scrape it off the ribs. It's insane.
Ouch.
I mean, it's
That
you know,
sounds
you look at
horrible.
someone and think this is so glamorous. No, inside this is like proper rubbish. I mean, I've known women that had leakage inside, that basically they had silicone that ended up traveling in the body and ended up sitting on organs. So it's really not as glamorous as they made it out to be. It's definitely not for life. And yeah, it was a horrible surgery to have them removed. The recovery is pretty intense. I mean, you have to sit for about a week to 2 weeks sometimes with drains, which basically is a bottle that you carry around with long tubes that drain from your breasts. I mean, you can barely even get up. You can't do anything. You can't lift anything. You can barely even go to the bathroom. So this is the reality of what it, what it is. And besides that, I mean, I was always a very outgoing person. I was always very much into being out there and being with people. And for me, just past 18, to start having severe anxiety attacks, unexplained rashes, I would literally, I mean, I remember I had a job booked for JBS. This was like that they were doing a whole showcase of their ranges to the retailers, and I had literally, I was booked every single day the 1 week. I end up in emergency. I've got this crazy rash all over my body,
Oh no.
like horrific stuff, like looks like burns. They end up giving me an injection because you just have to take something because your body is just full on reaction. What is it to? No one knows. No one can explain. Goes away. Okay, I go work. Literally afternoon hits again, same thing. I was literally going for a few days. I was going basically. It was just unexplainable. I was just having this constant reaction to something that I couldn't explain. No one could explain. I don't know what it was. And there's just so many instances of things that I felt that there was just never an explanation. And I became this person that basically goes to the doctor, and the doctor said, okay, you probably need some reassurance. Okay, everything's going to be fine. I'm like, I'm not crazy. Like,
I
something is
don't need
going on.
reassurance. I need a solution.
Yeah, but that's the thing when and this is, I guess, my thing with doctors. And again, don't get me wrong, I've been to doctors that were very, I mean, especially homeopathic doctors that very much look at the whole history of the person and understanding who the person is before even commenting on anything. And those are people that are very much interested in actually understanding what is the root cause of what you're experiencing. But with some doctors, it's more like if they can't see something physical on a piece of paper, black on white, then you've got nothing. And, I think constantly looking for something that could physically possibly be wrong to just give you a reasonable explanation to why you're feeling the way you're feeling. I mean, I had moments later on, like closer to me actually removing them, that I wasn't even able to walk. Like I would literally come to a point where I can't get out of bed. I can't stand up. And like when you start, I mean, some of that, but it's literally like this crazy feeling of like, what's going on? Am I not going to be able to walk? Like you get into such a state of shock that your body is just like, doesn't understand even what's going on. So, I mean, I would have moments where I'm like, I can't walk. I literally can't walk. I can't get up. I can't get out of bed. I can't stand up. You're trying to stretch yourself. You're like in just enormous pain. Everything is just giving up on you, and you cannot explain it. And they tell you that nothing's wrong with you. And from that to, I mean, I remember even a few months literally before I removed them, all of a sudden, I remember I was sitting in the morning doing my makeup. All of a sudden, the whole room starts spinning. I'm just having like severe vertigo attack. Like everything's just spinning. And I mean, for anyone that ever had a vertigo attack, I mean, that stuff doesn't stop spinning for a while. So I mean, for like half an hour, you're like just in a state of shock. You're like, what is going on here? Am I going to be able to see straight? Like, you just don't know what's going on, and your body again goes into another state of shock, because it's also like, how do I deal with this? Because you feel like you're constantly under this like attack.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were obviously also trying to have a baby. So at that, like, I kept having reoccurring miscarriages. And I think when you know your body and when you're attuned to your body, you know. And I would say to my husband, I feel like this is going to be it, because I feel certain symptoms. I see certain changes. And then all of a sudden, like a few days delayed, severe pain, and almost like couldn't necessarily pinpoint it, but then got to a point where it was where the test comes back positive, everything, you're like, okay, I'm pregnant. A week later, it's done, So basically, just constantly going through these phases. And I mean, for someone that's tried to do it for a long time, going through this process, I think it just becomes so just like discouraging and disappointing. And I think we tend to blame ourselves also. So very much like something's wrong with me. I think that's the kind of stuff that we say to ourselves. And meanwhile, if something was wrong with me, it just wasn't necessarily wrong with me. It was just something that was in my environment that was just preventing me from getting there. And if we look at things from another point of view, of maybe a more holistic view, I think, and I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and everything happens at the right time to lead you on a certain path. And my mom was on my case for a long time beforehand, saying, like, how are you going to breastfeed with these implants? Like, have you thought about it? Oh, everybody else does it. Surely I will do too, So at that point, I think I just had to come to the lowest of lows, to be literally down on my knees, asking God to just give me the answer. And it was the weirdest thing, because I think when we ask for an answer, we do receive it. I think also obviously at the right time for us to be able to even acknowledge that. And I remember I got into the car, and I used to listen to podcasts in the car, and this thing came up, and it was I think Sarah's Day podcast, and they were talking with Carissa Pukas, or however you pronounce her name, and she was talking about her journey, and she's like, oh, and breast implants. I'm like, oh my word, like, more about this. Like, I don't even want to hear it, because I'm also like, by that point, I was also a little bit like, I had a full-on phobia, like, don't mention something to me, then it's not going to leave my mind. Like, I don't want to deal with this right now. And I was just like, okay, fine, I'll listen to this, And just listening to it, there was a lot of moments where I was like, like, and like literally, like, you just see the dots.
Yeah, this is all making sense now. Like,
yes. Oh, maybe it's not just aging. Oh, maybe it's not just my life.
Yeah, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, maybe I'm not crazy. And I guess I asked for some form of answer, and that was the answer I received. And I think I had to be literally at my lowest to even be able to comprehend something like this, because I mean, it didn't mean spending a fortune. It did mean going through quite a process, and it did mean also, I think, emotionally and physically letting go of that part of who I was. Not to say that it's who I truly was, but it
became a part of you. But it's like you're saying as well, through the journey, sometimes we don't always see things for what they are, or maybe we're not ready to accept it. So everything comes at the right time. Because I know from when I was younger, I always wanted breast implants as well, but kind of there was always a reason that I wasn't getting it or was being stopped. And I look now and I think, oh, thank God, actually, I didn't get it when I was so much younger, because I don't care that I have them now. It's like, maybe I'll do it when I'm older, whatever, if I'm still bothered by it, because breast implants are sort of, it's like an image thing. It adds to the confidence on how you feel you look in your body in that thing. And I know I've spoken with friends about it, but it's just, I don't think that so many people are as aware as to what the implications actually mean, what it can do to your body, how your body may react. It is a foreign substance that you are inserting into your body to be there indefinitely.
But that's the thing. I think this wasn't something that I got because I thought something was missing. It's
Mm.
something that I thought would be a good addition,
Yeah.
because that's the idea that I was sold. But I think through time, it does sort of become part of you, and it becomes part of like your identity. Um, and then I think it's letting go mentally and, emotionally from the idea of what you thought you were towards something else of what you can be. And I think you really need, and this is the hard part, because I know quite a few girls that still have them, that are pretty much aware that no, some had severe issues. But I think making the decision to actually go through the process, you either have to come to a point where you're just so low that you're willing to consider it because you just want to be able to breathe, from a physical point of view, or you have to be able to fully let go and just wanting to be your authentic self again. So it wasn't so much, it was letting go of this fake image of who I was supposed to be to maybe other people perceiving me, but it wasn't who I was.
Yeah.
And I think it came at the right time, because it was just before I had my daughter, because once they were out of me, we didn't have any issues. So surprise.
Everything happens
Yeah.
for a reason, like you said, because I'm sure you needed to go through that whole holistic revolution physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, needing to go through that before embarking on your next big chapter in your life.
I think it also has allowed me to really truly have faith in just myself, creation, everything around me, like, believing that like the right answers will come at the right time, and God will show me the way. And I think that was that path, because I went into this thinking, I'm like, I'm dying. Like I said this to my husband so many times, like, I'm dying. Like that was my perception of
Sure.
my life at that
That's a
point.
low point,
And
yeah.
this is me being down to my knees. I'm dying. And I think I had to go through it, because also I think having a child, it's such like a point of transformation that you, I mean, it's unlike anything you would experience. There's a reason we go through it. It's another dimension of who we become. And going through that journey I had to go through, coming to a point of having a child, I think being able to selflessly, fully dedicate myself to her. And at that point, also understanding that we have all these physical attributes, but they all have a purpose. So if you look at things in a more comprehensive view again, breasts are not there for looking perfect. They're there for feeding a child.
Yeah.
Surprise.
That's such
All the revelations.
it all kind of comes full circle.
Yes. And at that point, and I see so many people go through this, and I can truly relate, because I managed to breastfeed my daughter for now over 3 years. I mean, I'm still going, which is insane. But I literally didn't even know if I could. I mean, again, I had major surgery 3 months before I got pregnant. I didn't expect to be able to. And women go through so much bullying when it comes to even like nursing children, that it's just unimaginable, actually. Again, doctors. But, you know, for you to even be able to let go, because there's certain changes that happen, and you have to be able to be okay with that, because you're like, okay, my body changes and my stomach grows because I have to give birth to a child. And then you look at it and you go, okay, well, things don't necessarily look exactly the same.
Or how you want, maybe.
Yeah, in your perception.
Yeah.
But, you also get this crazy gift, which elevates you in so many different other levels, that it just makes all of that so meaningless. And while I still obviously want to look good, I mean, I feel that I look better now than I did before my pregnancy. But
That's amazing because a lot of women don't often say that. Thank you for sharing that story with us in the journey. I'm going to quickly segue into the next segment that I call the ABCs of your career. So we'll start with A. What was your amazing, affluent Oprah Winfrey aha moment in your career journey?
I think basically just realizing Wildcat for what Wildcat is. I mean, yeah, just seeing it in that moment, in that photo shoot, just having that moment of like, this could really be something. I think that would be probably the most memorable.
Amazing. Was that right in the beginning of Wildcat when you were doing a photo shoot?
Yes. Yeah, 2015. Yeah.
Okay. And B, what was your business blunder turned to blessing?
I won't necessarily get into the details, but there was something that came about a couple of years ago where I was supposed to go into close business partnership with someone, and I think things at the time didn't work out the way they were supposed to work out, and it felt like there was like a derailment almost. But looking at it now, I think it was the best thing that could have happened. Just how I saw things play out around me now, I think it was just the right decision. Like, I was just, yeah, I think it was just the way it was supposed to be. Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes things have to fall apart for it to come together. And C, what is your cinematic worthy comical cock-up moment?
So I don't think that my life has ever been a comedy. I think my life has always been a drama. So I don't think I quite have a
dramedy.
Like that, but yeah, basically. So I think I would like, if you had to describe my life, it would be anything but a comedy. I mean, maybe like a twisted kind, but like it's more like a crazy drama. Everything just happens in certain moments that come in other moments, and it's like constant peaks and lows, and I don't know. It's drama. It's very much drama.
So it's hard to pinpoint one moment.
I'm not the type of person that does things like without thinking about them. Like, I'm quite well thought of in most aspects, so I just don't have moments where I'm like, oopsie. Like, maybe small ones, but it's not something that I would even remember enough to recognize.
Yeah, care about enough.
Yeah.
And moving to the quick fire round. So this is the last segment in the podcast. So the first word or sentence or something that comes to your head. So number one, if there's something that you could change about people's perception, what would it be? Or change people's perception on?
That anything is possible. So like, I think a lot of people just don't realize enough how many possibilities are out there. I wish just having faith, you know? Yeah, having faith. I think that's probably, it sums everything. Just having more faith, even for those that have found faith, finding more, because I think we always need more.
What is the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Worst piece of advice? Probably everything that told me to do what everybody else is doing. So yeah.
That does sound horrible. And what is your go-to hype song?
This is a tough one. So I don't listen to a lot of English songs lately, and like the girls that like know me up close like know why, because I'm quite a prude when it comes to lyrics. So yeah, I think we just hit a phase now where like everything is just very extreme in terms of like certain words that I just don't like to listen to, and I don't think I'm a bad bee, you know. So I just
I don't think I'm a bad bee. I love that.
No, don't see things like that. So I think for me, it's anything like Latin, because even though they probably say similar stuff, at least I don't.
At least you don't understand it.
Yes. So just give me Latin music.
And if you could live in any book in the world, which one would it be? Or if you're not into fictional writing, what is a book that you would highly recommend?
So I think one of the books, again, I don't read fiction, as you probably would have guessed, but I think one of the best books that I've read, one of the first, actually, well, not first, but recently, is Think and Grow Rich. I think it's one of the only books that I think has so many different dimensions that it's something that you could literally probably read over and over and over and over and over. And if you're not into books, watch the movie.
And final question, 3 people that you would have over for a dinner party, dead or alive.
Look, I mean, if it was dead, and it depends on your mood, right? If you want to hear like nice stories, you would probably invite family members and people that you would really like to know, because I would love to know what my family was like, going beyond the people that I've met, you know. But I think now, if it's for entertainment purposes, probably someone like Grant Cardone, because I think he's just a fascinating dude. And maybe Andrew Tate, love that guy. I know everybody says and has their opinions, but I mean, I think he means well. Maybe Donald Trump.
Wow, a very controversial dinner party.
Exactly. You see,
Trump, Andrew Tate.
Exactly.
Wow.
But think of the entertainment value if you had to record something like
That's
this.
very
Because this
true.
is going to be quite interesting. Like, you've got people that are quite similar in the way they go about things, but so different from so many different aspects. So I think that would be a pretty interesting dinner. And I'm all about good reality TV.
Yeah, that would be great. It should be. You should start a series that called like controversial dinners or something, and getting all these people in, like Andrew Tate and Trump, in the same room with someone else, but get someone who's like left-wing liberal, like what's the?
But think about it, I mean, Grant Cardone is basically the only person that wasn't close to jail. Well, actually, no, he was in jail when he was younger, I think. So it's like, you know, it's amazing, because I mean, if you think about it, both Andrew Tate and Trump now, I mean, the guys had to withstand so many different things. I mean, coming from more like a business aspect, I mean, to be able to go into jail and be able to come out of it, I mean, the mental strength that you have to have, and especially, I mean, watching him get on a plane literally every week, going to another flipping indictment, I mean, that's insane. Like, do you know how much strength you have to have as a person? Like, tremendous.
A lot of resilience.
So, I mean, regardless of what people think, this one did that, I mean, politics are a deep conversation, but I mean, the amount of strength you need to have as a person to be able to withstand something like this is just tremendous. And I mean, you have to have respect for that.
Thank you, Layla, so much for coming onto the podcast. I've really appreciated it. It's been so lovely talking about health, controversial people. And yeah, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Of course. Bye.